Hi, I'm Paul. We're doing Leetcode must-know interview questions. Today's challenge is set matrix zeros. Given an m by n integer matrix, if an element is 0, set its entire row and column to zeros. You must do it in place. Okay, meaning we're not returning anything, but we are updating the input matrix. Okay, so here's an example. We had an input matrix, there's a 0 in the center, so that means that the center row needs to be zeroed out, the center column needs to be zeroed out. This one is a little bit more complicated, not much, but the top left cell is 0, the top right cell is 0. So that means the top row needs to be zeroed out, the left-hand column needs to be zeroed out, the right-hand column needs to be zeroed out. All right. M and N, the matrix can be up to 200 by 200. The numbers in the matrix, let's see, well, they'll all fit in an int, so okay there. Follow up, a straightforward solution using O, M times N space is probably a bad idea. I guess so. I mean, it's, what would you be doing there? Creating a duplicate matrix. So I guess we're saying it wouldn't be efficient, whatever it is you're thinking of doing there. And what else? It's not really keeping with the spirit of an in-place transformation to create a second matrix and use it to keep track of what needs to be zeroed, and then using that data to repopulate the original matrix. Okay, so let's say that's not good. A simple improvement uses O, M plus N space. Still not the best solution. Okay, an O, M plus N space makes sense because you could have a row array and a column array. So every time you see a 0 in a cell, that cell is it has a column index and a row index. So you set the index in the column array and you set the index in the row array to indicate that you're going to come back and zero out that column and that row. Okay, that makes sense. Could you devise a constant space solution? Well, yeah, we could use the original matrix to store information about what rows and columns need to be zeroed out. So we could do it without an extra matrix and without extra arrays. So let's try for option number 3. I think it'd be better to draw this. All right, so here's the matrix from example 2. I wish this was a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more complex, but okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to iterate through the matrix one time, and every time we see a cell with a 0 in it, we're going to set the cell at the beginning of that row to a 0, and we're going to set the cell at the beginning of that column to a 0. And we're going to do that for every cell in the matrix. There's one problem here. It's not a problem with this matrix because the cell at 0, 0 is already 0, but we can't use, in general, the 0, 0 cell as an indicator for both the row and the column. So we're going to use the 0, 0 cell as an indicator for the row, and we're going to create an extra variable called C0, column 0, and we're going to use that for the column 0 indicator, and we're going to initialize it to 1. All right, so let's go through the array and see how this is going to work. All right, so this first thing we come to is this 0. Now the 0 at the beginning of this row and column is already 0. Well, at the beginning of the row, I should say, but the column, we can't use it for the column. We have to use column 0 for the column. So what that means is that column 0 is no longer 1. It is now 0. All right, next number is 1, 2, that's not a 0, 0, 0 is a 0. All right, so the first cell in this row is already a 0. The first cell in this column is already a 0. So we don't have to do anything there. That's why I wish there was some zeros, further down in the matrix. But anyway, everything else in this matrix is not a 0, and that means we don't have to do anything. The only thing we have to do now is take one more pass through the array. One more pass through the matrix and zero out what needs to be zeroed out. I mean, we have to make the pass through the matrix. It's really, I'm going to call it one pass, but it's in 2 parts. When we make the second pass through, we're going to start at index 1, 1, and we're going to update everything inside the top row and the left-hand column. We don't update we update the top row and the left-hand column last because they're holding our information regarding what columns and rows need to be zeroed. So let's see. Anything else I need to say here? Okay, so let's go through it. We start at 1, 1. This does not have a 0 for the row or column. The 5 does not have a 0 for the row or column. 2, it does have a 0 for the column, so that means we have to zero it. All right? So that 2 goes away. And we're going to replace it with a 0. All right. Next row. We don't start there. We start at column 1. 3 doesn't have a 0 for the row or column, neither does the 1. The 5 has a 0 for the column. That means the 5 has to go away. 5 is going away and is being replaced by a 0. All right. Now the second part of this pass is now we look at cell 0, 0, which is our indicator for the first row. And it is a 0, and that means the first row has to be entirely zeros. So that means this 1 and this 2 are gone, and they are replaced by zeros. All right, next thing we check is C0, column 0, which is also 0. That means column 0, everything in column 0. That would be this 3 and this 1. Have to be replaced by zeros. All right, so let's put a 0 there. Put another one here. All right. And let's look at the answer. For example, 2, the first row is all zeros. The next row is 0, 4, 5, 0. Next row is 0, 3, 1, 0. So this looks like the right answer. Let's see what that would look like in code. Before we start iterating through the matrix, let's set up some variables here. So n will be, let's say, matrix dot length, that is the column length. And then, well, I could just copy this. We'll call it M. M equals matrix 0 length. So that would be the row length, right? Matrix 0 length, yes. And we do need that C0 variable, initially 1. All right, now we can start looping. So for int I equals 0, I is less than n, I plus plus, for int j equals 0, j is less than m, j plus plus. If the cell that we're looking at, if the cell at ij contains a 0, then we got to do some work. And that is we have to mark the row. First, mark the row. Matrix I 0 equals 0. All right. Then mark the column. But we have to check if we are in column 0. That's a special case. So if j equals 0, j equals 0, then C0 equals 0. Otherwise, we can just set matrix 0 j, j to 0. All right, and that should be the end of the for loop. All right. Now we need one more for loop. We need a for loop. I mean, we've set our data as far as what needs to be zeroed. Now the second for loop, we need to zero it. I just copied that. I mean, it's really not the same at all, but I can save a little bit of typing. And again, we start at index 1, 1. We don't touch the first row and we don't touch the left column because they contain data that we need. So if matrix ij, in this case, we want to check, is it not equal to 0? If it's not equal to 0, then we need to check and see, does it need to be equal to 0? If it's not equal to 0, then we're going to check if matrix I0 equals 0. That is, does the row need to be zeroed? Or let's go down to here. Or does, it's I0 and then or 0j, right? Does that equal 0? Does the column need to be zeroed? And if it does, then let's zero the cell. Then matrix I j equals 0. All right, and that's actually the end of that for loop. So now we're here. All right, now we've got to handle the top row and the left column. So let's start with with the top row and say if matrix 0, 0 equals 0, then we need to, what is that? Oh, okay, got the parentheses in the wrong place there. If that is the case, then we just fill the array. Arrays dot fill. That would be matrix at index 0 and fill it with zeros. All right. And the next thing is the left-hand column, column 0. So let's say if C0 equals 0. Why do I keep getting the curly bracket inside the parentheses? If C0 equals 0, then we need a loop to do this, I think. For int I equals 0, I is less than n, I plus plus, matrix I 0 equals 0. Now what have we got? I don't know. That actually looks okay to me. Let's run this and see what happens. Compile error. Illegal start of type on line 35. Oh, I see. If so, I probably got too many end brackets in here somewhere. Let me pull that down so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, but for int, if int. Okay, so we got a bracket here, bracket here, bracket. I think we got too many brackets here. That doesn't look like it needs to be there. Let's try running it. Oh, okay, good, accepted. All right, basic cases are running, submit. Let's move the frame and give ourselves a little more space to see the results. One millisecond. Oh, look at that. What do we got? 20% of people use 0 milliseconds? Come on now. Okay. Anyway, that's the solution. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and see you next time.